ready for another lesson. And you'll never see me coming.
Hey everyone, I'm Bradley, and welcome back to Zlangle. The Marvel Cinematic Universe. Saying those words alone elates my spirits and presents beautiful images and memories within my mind's eye. For the most part, Marvel has done an amazing job of taking the comic books that we know and love and interpreting them on the big screen with, if not great accuracy, then great care and respect, turning the modern mythology that is comic history into cinematic experiences. But there are times that it doesn't go so well, or even worse, when those adapting these characters and stories fail at even respecting the source material enough to make it enjoyable for one such as me. But all is not lost, for this is the story of how the most egregious error of the early MCU has slowly but surely made amends with its sins, to the point where I now stand in front of you, ladies and gentlemen, and declare redemption. To start at the beginning, we must go back to that fateful year of 2013. Coming off the massive success that was The Avengers, it seemed like Marvel could do no wrong. The next film out of the gate was, you guessed it, Iron Man 3. Simultaneously a shoo-in for success following the third highest grossing film of all human history, but also a critical moment to see if Marvel's newfound billion-dollar standard could be upheld. Iron Man 3 had a lot to accomplish and live up to, and I'll admit, my personal feelings on the movie aside, it handled them fairly okay. The film dealt with the fallout of Tony Stark nearly sacrificing himself to save New York from an alien invasion in a way that felt real. The action set pieces seemed bigger than previous installments, with the plane passengers rescue scene and the Iron Legion stuff at the end. It upped the stakes in so many ways, and even had Tony showing off what he could do without his tech. But as we all know, the biggest problem lies with the Mandarin. The Mandarin in the comics is a villain of Iron Man, created in 1964 by Stan Lee and Don Heck. A Fu Manchu-style criminal mastermind of genius intellect, his true power comes from his 10 rings. Each ring had a different power. One has Ice Blast, one wields lightning, one could rearrange molecules, etc. He's quite the foe to contend with. And while not necessarily one of the most popular or famous of villains in the mainstream consciousness, he is in fact commonly known to be Iron Man's most enduring and biggest nemesis. Actually, if you take a look at IGN's ranking of the all-time top 100 comic book villains, in which he's ranked as number 81, he's the only true Iron Man adversary even listed there at all, unless you count MODOK or Fin Fang Foom. There have also been a number of adaptations in the past, from all the way back in the 1960s.
Iron Man, the time has come for you to feel the great power of the Mandarin.
His hands. Each ring must represent a different weapon. I'm frozen in my tracks.
To the 90s animated series.
The growth of my strength and intellect was incalculable.
And one of my personal nostalgic favorites, Iron Man Armored Adventures.
You are but an annoyance to be crushed.
That is to say, he's pretty important to Iron Man's history and mythos. Even in the first film, who was the organization that kidnapped Tony Stark in the first place? The 10 Rings. So from the very beginning of the MCU, the Mandarin's presence loomed. I remember back in 2008, assuming that the sequel would be the Mandarin, with an Empire Strikes Back sort of feel, and Iron Man's origin coming full circle. Boy, was I wrong.
A bird? You want a bird?
I want my bird.
I can get you a bird, I can get you 10 birds.
I want my bird.
So believe me when I say that learning he could finally feature as the villain in the third film felt like a long time coming. I was so excited, and I was so sure that this would be the epic finale to the trilogy that a character like Iron Man deserved. And the Mandarin was just the villain for the job.
My name's Trevor Slattery.
What are you, decoy? You're a double, right?
Well, I mean, not a study, no, absolutely not. Don't hurt the face, I'm an actor. Just a role. The Mandarin, see, it's not real.
The entire time, the Mandarin was actually a facade. Aldrich Killian, the real antagonist of Iron Man 3, had hired an actor, a dumb, lame nobody named Trevor Slattery, to act as the public face of his terrorist activities. It's difficult to express to you how much of a disappointment this was to me. Even nearly 13 years later, I can still remember the heart-sinking revelation that we were not going to see the epic villain, the Mandarin, in a live-action story after all. Imagine you go into a Batman movie looking forward to seeing the Joker. You want to see the classic relationships between hero and foe that you love from reading the comics. But imagine that within this Batman film, there comes an unapologetic twist that reveals Joker as a fake. That there isn't even a real Joker at all. It was all a smokescreen put on by the calculator or something. That's bad enough, but the upside to that scenario is that there are plenty of other Joker adaptations that do him well. At this point, if we get a Joker or two that isn't quite up to the Joker standard of excellence, Joker 2, it isn't the end of the world. But with the Mandarin, this was the one chance to get it right. Or at the minimum, try. A terrible adaptation of one of my favorite characters of all time is Galactus in Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. While we do get a pretty faithful Silver Surfer, instead of the looming, epic presence of the sole survivor of the sixth cosmos, wielder of the power cosmic, the devourer of worlds himself, Galactus, we get a murky cloud. And as much as I'm sure you can assume the extent of my displeasure with this adaptation, at the very least it was an adaptation. At least I can point to this movie and talk about how badly they portrayed Galactus. But in Iron Man 3, I can't even do that. Going in, it looked to be a very different Mandarin. No alien tech, no magic rings in sight, and it seemed more grounded in its scope and tone. Which admittedly works for a character like Iron Man, but this was also post-Avengers, so they had the freedom and opportunity to introduce higher sci-fi and fantasy elements if they wanted to. But alas, I had adjusted my expectations. I had readied myself for Ben Kingsley's curious casting. I was prepared for a cool film with a unique take on the Mandarin, less fantastical though he may be. I put all the faith I could muster into Marvel, stretching my benefit of the doubt as far as it would go, only to have it snap when I realized they were portraying this character and lore in bad faith. The embodiment of my discontent, besides the writers and director, Shane Black, was the character played by the incredible Sir Ben Kingsley, Trevor Slattery. My first bump in the road when it comes to my relationship with the MCU occurred that day. But in the darkness came hope. A tiny sliver, looking back now, more of a seed from which would eventually sprout. All Hail the King. Starting with 2011's Thor, within the Blu-ray features of each film, Marvel produced short films that took place within the Marvel Cinematic Universe called one-shots. They filled in gaps in the timeline, fleshed out the universe, or took the opportunity to highlight a fan-favorite character like Agent Carter, which of course led to an entire television spin-off. These were great ways to expand and deepen the burgeoning MCU, and unfortunately they ended just 2 years later in 2013 with the Blu-ray for Thor: The Dark World. The last of the one-shots that just eked out before ceasing the series was called All Hail the King. When I first heard about it, I was of course highly dubious at best. Starring, unfortunately, Trevor Slattery. It features Trevor Slattery in prison for his part in the Aldrich Killian Extremis plot. He's something of a celebrity there, and even does his Mandarin voice to entertain the other inmates. But here's the kicker. He gets broken out by an agent impersonating a journalist, and, well...
Mr. Slattery.
I'm an out-of-work actor, love. You've no idea what I'm capable of. And thanks to the CBS network, I'm pretty good with a handgun.
Oh! I'm not the one that's going to kill you, Mr. Slattery. I'm here to break you out.
That's nice.
Not really. You see, there's somebody who wants to meet you.
Do I know him?
No. But you took his name, and now he wants it back.
All hail the King and all hail Kevin Feige, our Lord and Savior. This 14-minute one-shot single-handedly saved my heart from knowing hatred and despair. And this small seed of salvation began the long, long journey of fandom, of myself, healing from what Iron Man 3 had wrought. Even though we originally didn't get the Mandarin as promised, and although this short film was a story revolving around my least favorite MCU character, Trevor Slattery, it showed us, those that likewise felt swindled by the Mandarin debacle, that there was actually a Mandarin out there. Somewhere. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Who would have thought that the concept of the Ten Rings, first introduced in the original Iron Man in 2008, would not only still be relevant, but be essentially getting their own backstory movie in 2021? And what an incredible film it is. Getting the real, unadulterated Mandarin I'd always wanted was a godsend, despite his 10 rings being quite different from in the comics, but no less powerful. He looked amazing. You really felt his ferocity in combat. They even showed his softer side, rounded him into a more sincere character than he is typically portrayed. My only regret is that he'll never be able to go toe-to-toe with Iron Man. Man, can you imagine if we had this Mandarin to end the Iron Man trilogy with? Regardless, my need for the true Mandarin, and their promise of him, teased and kept from me for 8 years, had now been fulfilled. My soul, full of forgiveness, I could finally put to rest my biggest gripe with Marvel, and look out to the future on the horizon. But, putting aside for a second how amazing this film is in its own right, quite possibly my favorite since Endgame, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings not only finally gave us the proper Mandarin, but even has the gall to bring back the notorious Trevor Slattery in a supporting role. And you know what? The most peculiar thing started to happen. I actually found myself warming up to this strange little character that I had hated for so many years. Somehow, the director, Destin Daniel Cretton, who I'll mention again in a minute, pulled off the impossible. He not only surprisingly picked up from where All Hail the King left off in 2013, Trevor now in the hands of the true Mandarin, but enriched Trevor Slattery's personality. He ends up leading Shang-Chi and Katie to the pocket dimension they're looking for, alongside Morris, a little Hundun that he can understand and interpret. So Slattery's role acts as a sort of guide as well as comic relief. Even the Mandarin ended up admiring him to an extent and kept him as a court jester. And that was that. Trevor Slattery was no longer an enemy of fandom. The Mandarin had finally been properly adapted, Trevor's story come full circle, and the painful memories of 2013 had been washed away by Destin Daniel Cretton's hand. But my friends, he wasn't done. Destin is now working on the new Spider-Man film, Brand New Day. And because of his past credits, including his work on the television adaptation of American-Born Chinese, I am absolutely ecstatic about what he'll bring to Spider-Man. But before that, he created an MCU TV show based on this Marvel character right here, Wonder Man. Coming from, you guessed it, Destin Daniel Cretton, it comes as no surprise that this show is spectacular in so many ways. Simon Williams in the comics is Wonder Man, a man who started out as an enemy of the Avengers, and Iron Man specifically, until he turns and sacrifices himself for the heroes. Ever since his eventual resurrection, he ended up actually joining the Avengers, befriending Beast from the X-Men, and began working in Hollywood, although in a very different capacity than in the show. How accurately, or not, this show is based on the comics is a conversation for another time, but in terms of what this show is, and what it promised to its audience, it definitely delivered. It's heartbreaking, it's hilarious, there's a mystery angle in it, but all of it, the entire premise of this story, ends up being Simon Williams and the relationship with his newfound best friend, fellow actor Trevor Slattery. That's right, Wonder Man went above and beyond with this character, finally completing his evolution. He's gone from a complete joke, a loose end, a humorous supporting role, to an actual lead of a show, a beloved one no less. And yes, I would consider Sir Ben Kingsley's Trevor to be a lead in Wonder Man. The story revolves around the two of them, and they are on screen nearly the entire runtime, and he is so good. We see Trevor in tricky situations, where he is undercover under duress and threat of re-imprisonment, forced to gather intel on Simon Williams, who he is quickly becoming fast friends with. There's something also to be said about Trevor Slattery's redemption. Not only did he get redeemed in my eyes, from a fan's point of view looking at a character, but he also managed to redeem himself. As is said by the director character in the show, redemption is one of the major themes, to the point that the film character Wonder Man is said to be obsessed with the concept of it.
Well, your character is obsessed with the concept of redemption.
It's one of the major themes of the film.
I find it also to be one of the major themes throughout the show, both for Simon and Trevor. Like what's been foreshadowed throughout the show, that Barnaby betrays Wonder Man in the script for the new film they're making. Trevor Slattery had been betraying Simon the whole time, using him and spying on him to avoid prison. And when it all finally comes out, you can just see how much it hurts him. He finally had a friend, and that one and most trusted friend was not what he was led to believe. For Trevor, seeing the pain he brings Simon by this revelation when he says,
"That's a hell of a performance, man."
hurts to watch. He isn't just looking for a way to weasel out of the situation like usual. It isn't just self-preservation this time. He is afraid of hurting and losing Simon. After all the mistakes he's made, both in his personal life and to the world at large, as the so-called Mandarin, he gives up everything to help his best friend, Simon Williams. Though in a crisis somewhat formed by his own doing, he sacrifices his chance at artistic fame and glory to save Simon from the fate of imprisonment, a fate he has once endured, and for his best friend, will do again. The fact that he once again dons the persona of the Mandarin to do so is just a cherry on top, honestly. I was teary-eyed as seeing his selflessness, and I couldn't believe that I found myself literally clapping as he turns to Agent Cleary and says,
I have always been the Mandarin, and you never saw me coming.
It was one of the most cathartic moments in the MCU for me personally, and to think what had started off as an awful plot twist, undermining an epic character in Iron Man 3, now finds himself providing a powerful, rich finale of a small-scope, character-driven miniseries of Wonder Man, of all people. The impact Trevor Slattery and his MCU journey has had in my life, and the mere longevity of his strange existence, is something I never could have anticipated. Not bad for a character-ruining, dumb plot twist. So all that being said, go out and watch Wonder Man. Hopefully it will help you as much as it's helped me get past the epic tragedy that is Iron Man 3. And if you do, let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.